Good afternoon, everybody. I believe we are now streaming live on Facebook. Welcome to week 3 of What's Up, the show where we talk all things energy, share some stories, share some laughs, and give you the information you need to make informed energy choices. I'm your host for this episode, Danielle Salisbury, and I'm joined by my fellow community energy advisors and Cornell Cooperative Extension educators working on NYSERDA's Community Energy Engagement Program, Colin Adkins and Sean Welsh. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Through
this program, local community energy advisors in 10 regions across the state help residents and businesses reduce their energy consumption and energy costs and make informed energy decisions. This week, we're going to talk about what's in an energy bill. Very confusing topic. I know before I looked into this topic, I did not really know much about how to read my energy bill. Luckily now I actually don't receive my own energy bill. It's included in my rent. But a couple years ago when I used to get them every month, I was always lost. And luckily we have some experts here today who can help answer all of our questions about energy. What's in an energy bill? What does this mean? How do I interpret this? So Colin and Sean are here today to help us decipher what it is we see. If you are joining us via Zoom, you can ask us questions in the chat box. If you're joining us via Facebook Live, feel free to type something into the comment section there. We have Colin who's monitoring those questions there. And if we don't get to your question today during this section, we will answer it in the comments on Facebook. So you still get an answer to your question. So let's just dive into it. Energy bills, confusing. The first thing I look at when I see an energy bill, I see this thing that says kWh. Now I know that means kilowatt hour, and that's kind of somehow representative of our electricity, but what does that really mean? Colin, Sean, can you give us a little bit of more insight on what a kilowatt hour is?
Sure. A kilowatt hour is a unit of measurement that we, our utilities use to kind of estimate how much to charge each individual energy consumer. So what we're billed at a rate. So each kilowatt hour is given a rate. And then we have this little calculation that's noticeable on our bills. And then so you have your rate times how many kilowatt hours you use per month. And that gives you your kilowatt hour for the month, your load for the month that you use. So the big thing is to kind of identify with that. I find it beneficial for my own thing is my own kind of review of my energy bill is to be familiar with how many kilowatt hours a month that you use normally for your building. So, if you've been there for a while, you've been in your space for a while, be familiar with how many hours a month you're using. And if you've moved into a new place, and you have really no relative bill history at a new location, start to get familiar with what that usage is going to be. What would you add, Colin?
I would just add, it's easy for us to think about other commodities that we consume in terms of like a volume. Like that's often how we're billed for that. A gallon of milk or a gallon of oil. It's easy for us to visualize what a gallon is because we see them a lot, but it's hard to visualize what a kilowatt hour is. But really it's just, watts is already voltage times amperage, and then you multiply that by hours. And 1,000 watts in 1 hour is 1 kilowatt hour. Another thing that you might see on your bill if you're a natural gas customer is a therm, which basically equals 100 cubic feet of natural gas. 100, 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. Sorry, that's not right. Anyway, it's a volume. Is basically how it's assessed, and so that kind of makes up how much you consume part of your bill.
So we can keep track of how much we're using each month based on this kilowatt hour. And why is that important? Keeping track of how much how much electricity we're using.
It's important to watch because you can actually see how you are changing your bill and how your bill is changing. If it's going up, or if you're comparing, this month of 2020 to this month of 2019, it can actually give you some signals that there might be something amiss in your house or just some change that's happened for better or for worse.
Okay.
You could find out things like, and now, I mean, not to get too deep into the weeds, but you can, I mean, you can look at your history now. It's a lot easier, you know, to get online, review your bills, review your usage, and compare data. So you can look at like this April versus last April, you know, and actually see. So if you have like, I talk to folks all the time about this, and you people kind of mention, you know, I found out that my sump pump's running all the time. What's going on? Why is that? It turned out my sump pump was broken, you know, or something like that. So you could, like Colin just said, you could find like little anomalies in your home that you might not notice, you know.
Okay. The next thing when I look at these bills, am I seeing charges for supply and delivery? I feel like that's can you explain to me what that really means?
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel almost like double billing, but when you actually consider everything it takes to get that energy to your house, you're billed not just for the consumption of it, but you're also billed for the costs associated with getting it to you. It's very expensive to maintain the power lines and the transmission infrastructure to get it there. And that's something that we all kind of rely on a little bit. My neighbor and me use the same transmission infrastructure. So it's kind of like a share of the costs associated with getting it to us.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. Another thing on here that I'm, you know, just interested to hear about is this estimates versus actual. So sometimes I'll see, when I used to get my own bill, I would see, you know, estimated or actual. What does that actually mean?
Well, some months you're going to have someone actually read your meter, come out to your home, or the homeowner oftentimes can read the meter themselves. Okay, so you can avoid estimate charges and send it in. So, and there's different utilities have different methods, different ways to do it. And you can sign up, or you can kind of just connect online with your utility, or give them a call how to read the actual meter itself. But basically, estimate versus actual is someone actually physically from the utility comes out, reads the side of the building, reads the meter, records it. And an estimate, they estimate your use based on past years, or what you've got, or like if someone, even if you moved into a house, you know, somebody else had usage information prior to you, most likely, unless it's a new build. And they can look back at that as well. So that's actual.
That actually, now that you say that, that reminds me, the apartment that I used to live in, I was only there for 8 or 9 months, and I left in the middle of July. So the last full month that I paid was for June, and it was a 2-story apartment. Got really hot on the second level, like most second stories do. However, I'm very stubborn and was very cheap and did not buy an air conditioner. I just used a window fan. And I got my bill for June, and it was more than double what I usually pay. And I was like, there's no way that I could have spent that much money just using a window fan. And I checked, and it actually was an estimate. And it was because the person who had previously lived there before me that previous June did in fact use an air conditioner. And therefore they had estimated that I would be using way more energy than I was. But they made up for it the next month when they took my actual reading. So it worked itself out. But I was shocked. I was just, my energy bill had doubled and I didn't know why.
Yeah. Your utility will often, you know, reaching out to them and having a conversation about that. Maybe there's a mistake, or, you know, they estimated incorrectly. But, you know, like your example is a fantastic example of like where, you know, these estimates versus actuals can come in direct conflict with how life is really being lived. So, yeah. Conversation with your utility can go a long way.
And you have done that before, right? It's not a hard thing to do, because I thought you mentioned you had contested something before, right?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with my utility in the past. There's some really good people get on the phone with you and talk to you about you know, what you're experiencing, if it's an estimate actual situation. But all our utilities do provide customer advocates too, to talk about these things, to, you know, or even if something comes up where you start to experience like a financial hardship, which I know many people are doing right now, or having that experience, customer advocates can kind of help you get guided into a program that they may offer. All our utilities offer economic assistance programs, EAP programs. Some offer balanced billing programs. So if you're having trouble paying, you know, there's even programs that are like fuel funds. Okay, so if you're having trouble with, they can have like an emergency one-shot kind of fill up for you, or a, you know, bill pay for you. So there's some good programs, the good questions to ask those customer advocates, even if it's something beyond disputing a bill.
And I know a lot of them have English and Spanish help available.
Yes.
So definitely keep that in mind too. Colin, were you going to say something?
I was going to say I had a really similar experience to both of you, where I was kind of switching apartments a little bit in the Hudson Valley, and saw some really funky estimates, really higher, much higher than my actuals, and I wanted to find out what that was. And I did get on the phone with a representative from my utility who was really helpful, and actually told me how I could report my own meter reads every month so that I didn't have to worry about that estimate. And it was actually a super simple process. So if anyone out there is experiencing that, don't be afraid to reach out to your utility and find out how to do that.
Yeah, and they even give you a little email reminder, text reminder that it's time to read your meter.
Great, and that's as simple as like sometimes taking a photo of it, or I mean, I know it depends on the utility, but it's a pretty simple process, right?
Yeah, it's with my utility, it's very straightforward. Colin and I spoke. Yours is pretty easy too, right?
It was just taking a picture.
Yeah, very cool.
Great. Just moving down the list of, you know, looking at this energy bill, I see something that says SBC RPS. Could you explain what I mean? I know that means systems benefit charges and renewable portfolio standard, but what exactly does that mean, and why are they charging us for that?
I could take a crack at that.
Go ahead. This is a fan favorite.
The joke I like to make is that, like, there's so many different line items and they all just have these different acronyms. It's almost like you need, you know, an advanced degree just to understand your energy bill. But we'll hopefully try to break it down what SBC is. And that's one that you don't have to be scared of. It's actually just a small fee that's assessed on your consumption, that volume that you consume, that actually goes and gets aggregated with everybody else in the New York State that pays the systems benefit charge, which if you with a public utility, not one of the little municipal ones, but a public utility, then you can, all that money gets pooled together and redistributed into all these programs, you know, that are offered by NYSERDA. So it's actually money that you've already paid into, and that you can recoup some of the benefit of, and which is one of the fun parts about our work, is getting folks to be able to take advantage of those, that money that's on the table that they've already paid into on their utility bills.
Great, I think that was a great explanation. Great, so kind of jumping off of that, I have an image here that shows, I'm going to share on my screen, that's about our energy usage and kind of backing you up, Colin, of why it's so important that we do use these programs that are available to us and help reduce our residential energy use. I mean, you see 43% of that is space heating. And a lot of the programs that we'll talk about that all three of us have a lot of knowledge about, if you know, we can help you get into these programs, and I'll mention a few in a minute. But they can help you lower your residential energy, your energy use in several of these areas: lighting, space heating, space cooling, which is all, I mean, it takes up a big chunk of our energy use. Any thoughts on that before I go into the programs, gentlemen?
I mean, no, it's just that 50% is heating and cooling, which, you know, when you're talking about a lot of these programs that Danielle's going to refer to, they're all, you know, programs about the envelope, more or less, adding insulation and air sealing.
My only 2 cents is that, I know that that information comes from the whole US, the whole United States. So up here in the colder latitudes, in the colder states, it can actually be a little bit more than 50% spent on just heating and cooling the air in our homes. So although the insulation and air sealing stuff can be some of the best bang for your buck if you're going to do energy efficiency upgrades.
Well, you got a little quiet there for me at the end. Could you repeat that in case a few of our listeners didn't hear that, Colin?
Oh, sorry. Just that it's the insulation, air sealing is some of the best bang for your buck if you're going to do any upgrades like that.
Yep.
Great. So as Colin was mentioning, those programs from that SBC charge that we get, there's several of them. And I'll just throw out a few right now that since we've talked about our energy bills and how we can try to help even those out a little bit. One of which is assisted home performance with Energy Star. You can get a free home energy assessment, and this program can allow you to do a cost share of up to 50% of the upgrades that you do, up to $4,000. There's also, and that's income dependent, as well as the Empower New York and Solar for All are both, you have to be income eligible to get into these programs. If you receive assistance from SNAP or HEAP or TANF or other assistance programs, you're likely eligible to enter these. Empower New York, you also get a free home energy assessment and several free home energy upgrades as well. And Solar for All is a utility bill assistance using solar credits. So it's the same income eligibility as Empower New York. There's no upfront costs or fees. There's no cost to participate if you're eligible. And it is a type of community solar, but there's no need to put panels on your roof. So you still get the renewable energy and you get a discount on your energy bill, since we're talking about energy bills. Now I know that both of you have done work on your own living spaces. Colin, you just mentioned you got a Nest thermostat that actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the program, when we were talking about energy usage and why that's important to pay attention to. And you had sent me this graphic that I'm just going to bring up right now that I would like to share. If you could just kind of walk us through what this is showing us and why it's important to help do these energy efficient upgrades, even if it's just a Nest thermostat.
Yeah, so this was just an example that I shared with you guys about how sometimes it's a little investment that goes a long way. And when I moved into my current apartment, one of the things I noticed, in addition to some little air sealing things that I could do near the windows, was there's an older thermostat here. And I wanted to take the hassle out of remembering to set it, remembering to turn it off when I left for work, when I was leaving for work. Now it's also helping me just stay more comfortable and taking some of the thought out of that thermostat because I can do it right from my phone. And I was actually really surprised at how much I was able to save this year compared to last year, when last year in February and March were some of my highest bills all year. I mean, I was shocked at the bill being like almost half of what it was. And I attribute a lot of that to, my heat not running while I'm away, and just some of those little changes that take place when you start to think about your energy bill and this usage and the pattern that happens year to year.
Very interesting. And that actually ties into what we'll be talking about next week, which is an energy budget. Because I see this blue from 2020, it's all so consistent. I mean, you must be paying a very similar price on your energy bill, which can help with your energy budget. So we'll talk about that next week. But before we go for this week, any final words from either Sean or Colin about energy bills?
I would just encourage folks to look at your utility bill, on a regular basis. Make sure you're familiar with what your monthly kilowatt kind of average is, your kilowatt hours, how many, comprehensively you're using each month. And also visit your utility websites. There's like Colin just pointed out, the thermostats are available on there for a lesser cost than you'll get at a home improvement store. And they have other items too to help with your energy bills and things that you can install really kind of, through no real real big kind of investment needed beyond just the cost of the product itself. And they have programs, looking at these programs. And if you're interested in a home energy audit, MidHudsonEnergyChoices.org.
Yes, thank you.
Closing thoughts are just, you know, these bills can be really complicated, and what to do about them can be a little complicated, and that there's help out there. Sean mentioned our website, MidHudsonEnergyChoices.org, and I just dropped a link in the Facebook comments where folks can go and they can fill out a really short Google form. They can let us know who they are and what issues they're having, and we would love to help them out and help them take advantage of some of these programs, get some of that money back from that SBC that they've been paying into, that can help them save more money.
Great, thank you both. Very insightful. And yeah, just to reiterate, please contact any of the three of us. Our contact information is on that website, as well as I've had it up in the beginning of the video. And join us next week for WhatsApp Week 4, where we learn about what's in an energy budget and how to do an energy budget. So until next time, see you later.